Welcome back, people. Hope you're well. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you check out last night's show. It's absolute lit. It's one of the best we've done in a long time. Me, Tobes, Lawless, Pete, Errol, and Dan, all talking about all things Race for Europe show. So, of course, Tobes and Lawless at each other's throats as ever. Errol and Dan at each other's throats, Man United, Liverpool. And me and Pete were just sitting there chilling out because Pete is a Newcastle fan. He's quite chill, and I'm happy 5 points clear. So make sure you do that, people. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Get me up to 8K as quickly as we can, people. Come on, come and help us out. I thought I'd bring my boy Sava on today. Sava, what are you saying, bruv?
I'm saying that I wish I was 5 points clear at the top, and I wish my fan base was chill. Other than that, I'm all right. You?
I'm very good, man. Listen, before we get
Good,
into
good.
things, your channel, Football Heritage TV.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell people what's happening, man.
Yeah, so listen, I had my own channel, which was Sava Talks Football. Henry Wright had his own channel, Henry Wright TV, both Spurs channels. So we decided to join forces. I've joined his channel for all Tottenham purposes, and my channel has turned into a generic football chat about all things football, all things Premier League, Europe, FA Cup, World Cup, watch-alongs, all the usual. So yeah, if anyone wants to subscribe, please hit me up at Football Heritage TV. And the only thing we had to decide on was did we have a picture of Jose Mourinho in the logo? But we fought against that one. So the football heritage, all right.
Mate, Football Heritage is a good one, man. I like it. Make sure you do that, people. All you got to do is click on the title of this video. It'll take you straight to it, and then just hit a subscribe. Get him up to 5K as quickly as possible, mate. And make sure that you follow what Sava's doing, because Sava's a good lad, and he's one Tottenham fan that I can talk to. That's why that's why I brought you on, man. I ain't gonna lie. That is a lie. Of course, I love Tobes and Henry and Fuad as well. But I must say, there's a lot of Harry Kane talk, Sava. And I wanted to ask you about this because I think it's a big, big topic. It seems like it's a topic every season
Yeah.
and has been one for the best part of 3 or 4 seasons, in my opinion. But I wanted to ask you about the chances of Harry Kane leaving Tottenham and the chances of Harry Kane staying at Tottenham, because there's a lot of Tottenham fans that are just giving up hope now, I think. And that's not just on Harry Kane, that's on their season and a lot more than just Harry Kane. But what's your thoughts on this one? Do you think Harry Kane needs to go? Do you think it's uncruel to keep Harry Kane? Or do you think there's a chance that you can try and keep him at Tottenham and be positive about your future, mate?
Do you know what? Listen, Spurs fans, just shut your ears for a minute if there are any. Listen, I've said all along, if this man signs another contract, then he has got zero ambition. Yeah. Now, listen, we can talk about Spurs all-time top goal scorer. Tick. I think he's one away from England all-time top goal scorer. Tick that off. He'll score 3 goals next time we play San Marino or something. Right? Alan Shearer's record, hunting it down. He'll take that as well. These are all great individual accolades, but do you really, Dan, you want to get to the end of your career and say, I've not won anything. I've only won individual accolades. So for me, look, the only way I reckon he's going to get this is he either sees his contract out because he's got a year. In June, it will be a year. He's got a year left from June. Or he hands in a transfer request. And if I was Harry Kane, I know what I'd be doing. He doesn't owe us anything. So, yeah, that's my stance on it.
Yeah, and I think it's fair, and you're being very honest with that, and I think you're talking facts. And if you was to look back at Harry Kane's career as a footballer, you would say, wow, all the talent in the world. And I have to say it, and I don't like saying it because obviously I'm a gooner, but
Yeah.
he is ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Some would
Yeah.
say he's world class in his position. Others would say he's one of the best there's been in his position, certainly in the Premier League. And some would say that if he was to do a World 11, that he would be some people's picks for it. And I don't think there's anybody out there that can say any of those statements are crazily wild. I think they're all pretty much near on accurate. Now, what I want to ask you is, where, if he does go, and we'll talk about where he goes in a minute. If he says, I'm leaving Tottenham, I've only got 1 year left, you're not going to get any money from me if you keep me. I'm going to go for nothing, which I think will be stupid for Tottenham, if I'm honest with you, for that player of that quality to take nothing for him and let him walk out for nothing. Where will he stand in terms of Tottenham players, strikers, legends for you? Like, where does it stand? What bracket is he in for you?
Yeah, tough one, right? Tough one. I'm quite a tough taskmaster when it comes to calling anybody world class or a legend, and I get bantered for it all the time. But look, Harry Kane will go down as a legend because he's the top goal scorer at a club has ever had, right? I mean, so factually, he's going to go down as a legend. Do I then put him in the same bracket as the greats that won things? The likes of Hoddle, the likes of Perryman, Blanchflower. How can you? I mean, realistically, how can you? Because individually, yes, but listen, football's all about achievement, right? Listen, we're not talking about, this isn't sports day where your mum would say, "Oh, don't worry, you took part." This isn't that, right? This is elite level football. And as it stands, if Harry Kane, not Harry Kane, if Harry Kane was to leave right now or next year without winning anything, legend, yes, up there with the Hoddles, the Perrymans, the Blanchflowers, the Mabbotts. I'm not sure, I'm not sure, but that will get me a lot of hate. But bring it on.
I mean, listen, it will do by some deluded people, but I totally get your point, and I think that although football is people say football's about winning, and then there's also an argument to say that it's not always about winning. Now, I understand both arguments. The aim of elite sport to me is to win, right? You look back at your career and you think, what have I won? And if the answer is not a lot, then you have to be a bloody good player. Now, Harry Kane has got that. He is a bloody good player. It's not always about winning, and what I mean by that is when people say that is that Roberto Di Matteo a better manager than Arsene Wenger? He's probably not, but one of them's won a Champions League and the other one hasn't. So when you look back at what they've won, well, there you go. When you look back, I didn't want to say that because there's some gooners in the chat that absolutely hate him still. So, but I must say, like, and I'm serious when I say this, you look back and you think, bloody hell, one of them's won a Champions League, the other one hasn't. Who's the better manager? Now, you can't look at that with Harry Kane because Harry Kane is absolute top elite level and Di Matteo was not. So that just squashes that argument for me. But some people will say that you have to look at what people have won and achievements in football. But there are some unbelievable footballers, particularly in the Premier League, Sava, that haven't won what the likes of Thierry Henry and Sergio Aguero and Rooney and Drogba have won. And Harry Kane is obviously one of those. But he ain't alone in that. So what I mean by that is Letizia is another one who was unbelievable, in my opinion, and could have had a move, but stuck and stayed loyal to Southampton. You can argue that there's other players as well that have done that, like Paolo Di Cannio's of this world that could have gone anywhere that he wanted to, but didn't really have any club that he wanted to go to in the top four, so to speak, if that had existed then. So I think with Harry Kane, my question is, where does he lie in terms of Premier League greats? Is he up there with the Henrys and Agueros for you, or is he in that bracket below that?
Yeah, again, it depends what you want to judge it on. Look, one question I always ask people in the chat, and I'll ask your chat now if it's all right, is can you name a player that's ever been as good as Harry Kane that hasn't won anything? There you go. I'll just let people run away with that. Look, where would I put him? Listen, first of all, I don't think he's anywhere near the level of footballer of Thierry Henry. I mean, let's call it as it is. Thierry Henry, I hated that he played for you lot. But as a football fan, let's be fair, we're all football fans first and foremost, right? We're football fans.
Absolutely.
Thierry Henry was just absolutely different. He was different. Like he ran that Premier League for how many years? It was just clever. He was superb. Do I put Kane in that bracket? I don't, if I'm honest. I don't. Volume of goals, yeah, but you could probably argue that I reckon Henry's probably played a lot less Premier League games than Harry Kane has. I don't know that. Somebody will probably come in now and tell me that's a complete lie. But do I put him up there with the likes of Rooney, with Drogba, with with Henry, with Bergkamp? No, not from achievement. Ability-wise, very different player to most of those I've just mentioned. Look, he's a class act. He's a class act, but I find it so difficult judging players against other players when they're, people say to me things like, who would you rather have, Harry Kane or Mbappe? And it's like, well, listen, I can find room for both of them in my formation, right?
Same.
they don't play the same position. The fairer question in that sort of scenario is, who are you taking, Benzema or Kane, who both play in the same position? But look, he's a top class footballer that at the moment, for me, needs to show some ambition. And Spurs fans will hate that. But at some point, it's got to change. I'll tell you what I thought, just to, if I can, just really quickly, what I asked yesterday on my channel was if I offered you a swap of Harry Kane for Ivan Toney and James Maddison, so you get the goal scorer and the creative force, would you take it? And the number of Spurs fans that said no, and I'm like, I'm taking that all day long. I'm taking that all day long. So Harry Kane, tough one. Just don't upset the Spurs fans on that one, mate.
Well, listen, you're always going to upset them, I'm afraid, mate. There's a lot of them that are very deluded. Not that we don't have half a deluded fan base, we always have done, but it don't make Spurs any different. Listen, I think Harry Kane, when you talk about Premier League greats, he's probably going to be the all-time. I mean, if he stays at Tottenham, he's probably going to
Yeah,
be the all-time Premier League goal scorer. Now, if he does leave Tottenham, then obviously he'll have to go somewhere, which we'll discuss now. But I think he'll be known as one of the ones. He'll be like the Shearers, the Rooneys, the Henrys, the Agueros. He'll be mentioned in that category for me. I don't know
yeah,
that he's ever going to. If you compare to one of those who was the best, for me, I'm going to be biased and say it was Thierry Henry. A lot of others would say it was Drogba, Rooney, Aguero, and the list will go on. But for me, Harry Kane will always be known as one of the top strikers in Premier League history, no matter
yeah,
what
sure,
happens, because he's
sure.
been unreal. And I don't know a player that scored that many goals against us, mate. It's just honestly, every time he bloody plays, it just seems like he's going to score.
Yeah.
So where would he go and how much will he cost is my next question, Sava. What's your thoughts on that?
I can only see one club in England taking him. I can only see one club, and that's Man United. I look at I look around and you think Liverpool have got like 6 forwards, right? They've got haven't they? Like they rotate like 6 strikers. You've got Chelsea. That's a no-go. I cannot see that deal ever taking place between Tottenham and Chelsea. I can't see it. If it does, wow, I just cannot see it after the pressure that Levy is under most of the time anyway, and after what happened all those years ago with Big Sol. So I can't see Chelsea. City, I mean, they've got a bloke who's scoring goals, I think, like every 5 minutes. It feels like every time he kicks the ball. Newcastle, I don't think jumping ship to Newcastle at the moment is a guarantee, right? But I do feel going to Man United, if you chuck Kane in this Man United team, I think they're challenging for a title. I think he is what's missing for them. What would he cost? If we're talking this summer, obviously, because the season after would be free, 100. And listen, how much can you charge for a guy that's got a year left on his contract versus how much do Man United want a proven 30-plus goal scorer every year? He guarantees you goals. So it's not a risk in any way, shape or form. The only risk is injury. He's not a risk to joining Man United. I think he'd score goals for fun, linking up with Anthony, Rashford, Bruno, Ericsson. 100 million, 110. I don't know. Whatever Daniel Levy's dirty little fingers can get for him.
And he has got dirty fingers, trust me. Listen, do you think looking back now, and it's always easy to look back in football, I know Man City have now got Haaland and they wouldn't be interested in Kane, but when they were and he wanted to leave, do you kind of wish that you would have started a rebuild now and be 2 years ahead of this project without Kane, or are you happy you clinged on to him?
It's always a tough one, isn't it? I think if I supported another club and you sold a Harry Kane for 150, 200 million, I think you're thinking, cool, all right, we're gonna have a rebuild here, because top clubs lose top players, whereas Spurs haven't been that top club. We've hung on and we've clung on to Kane and Son to a lesser degree for so many years that I think we wouldn't know what to do if Harry Kane left. Do I trust the owners with a rebuild with the Harry Kane money is the question, and the answer for that is no. So then you have to weigh up, Dan, is keeping him for... This is assuming he wants to leave, right? This is assuming he doesn't sign a new contract. Do we let him run down his contract, get nothing for him this year, and then lose him on a free, but get 30 goals in all competitions next year, versus getting, let's just call it 100 million and being able to buy some players? I don't know. But once Kane goes, listen, I don't see why would top players join us? This is my worry. Why would they join us?
And the other thing you got to worry about is when you sold Bale and you got all that money, you wasted it. So is that going to happen again, or are the scouts different now? Do you trust the people at the top to get it right if you do get this money to form a rebuild?
Yeah, I think I think it's different now, because when we sold Gareth Bale for 95 million or whatever it was back then, 95 million was like, wow. Now, if we sell Kane for 100 million, you think we just paid 100 million for Richarlison and Porro. like, do you know what I mean? If you put it into terms, look, I've said to you a number of times, Dan, Spurs need a complete reset. and that involves scouting, director of football. We need scouts like Brighton have got, but maybe to the next level up, if you know what I mean. We need scouts that can go and get a guy that some of us go, oh, I've not seen this guy play, but when he comes in, we go, wow, where's he been plucked from? You know, the Mahrez kind of scouting, the Kante kind of scouting, Mitoma. I mean, look, Alexis McAllister, Casado, these types of signings where you go, who found you? Like, and if that
And
scout
that
has
many
not
as
been
well. That
given a
many of
pay
them.
rise, yeah, absolutely. Brentford do it wonderfully, don't they? Brentford don't have they don't have an under-23 team, do they? They
That's
don't.
right.
They literally just have a B team that go around the world playing other clubs under 23s and reserve teams, and then they pluck the best players. And hey, but yeah, so no, is the overall answer. I do not trust Spurs in any way, shape, or form. And we should be looking at that now. That, you know, we should have young, hungry players coming in behind, rather than spending 60 million on Richarlison. Who's a good young 19, 20-year-old striker out there in the world? That yeah, they're not scoring 30 goals a year. Yeah, of course they're not. But they're getting 10 goals a year, and you can see potential. Why are they not being brought in to learn from Harry Kane? Right, to train with him for a year, 2 years. Then when Kane does go, you've got somebody ready to step up. But we don't we don't do that at Tottenham. There's no plan. So
I think
yeah,
there's a lot to be said about the scouting, and I think that's for every club. I mean, Brighton have got it more than spot on, if I'm honest. Leicester over the years have as well. I know they've been a mess at the moment, but their recruitment has always been pretty good. You know, they won the league, they lost Kante, they lost Mahrez, they went inside Ndide, and they got Harvey Barnes, and they've come through. They're never, not even in the same level as Kante and Mahrez, but at the same time, it hasn't been like, wow, you know, shocking
yeah,
buys. And I think with Spurs, what they have to do, in my opinion, is look at the Premier League proven players that are at those clubs below us and say, do you know what, we could take them for a half decent price and
yeah,
we can actually make something of it. Luis Enrique is the name I'm going to mention because Conte
yeah.
looks like he probably is going to go, and a lot of your fans want him out and they've had enough of him. What do you think the realistic chances of Enrique will be? And also, would you be happy with that appointment?
Look, you have to look at this on multiple levels. Luis Enrique, as a manager, I really like. Yeah. He plays the type of football that I like. And I always have to caveat this. It's just me personally. I love that possession-based style of football where all the players are comfortable on the ball, comfortable to receive it in tight areas, one-touch passing, you know, don't need to hold on to it for too long. I like that. Problem you've got is this. It's the same as any manager coming into Tottenham Hotspur. For Luis Enrique to come in, you look at the current crop of players and go, right, who's playing tiki-taka, right? Let's call it for what it is. Who's playing tiki-taka? Right, cool. Harry Kane could play it. From a forward, which is probably the least important person in tiki-taka, the forward, he could play it. I don't think Son could. Don't think he's got that about him. Kulu, for me, is another one who's a bit more of a direct runner rather than a link-up guy. Bentancur, maybe. I don't think Basuma, Højbjerg, Skip. I don't think these players could. I think Porro and a Doji next year as flying fullbacks could work. Centre backs, maybe Romero's good at bringing the ball out, but again, it's can we go and scout and find those players that are technically good enough to play tiki-taka? Like if you were going to go and scout your Pascal Grosses, your Alexis McAllisters, can we do that? Does Paratici agree with that ethos? Right? Is Paratici and his scouts going to go out and buy those players? I don't know, man. It's a mess. As I said, the whole thing needs a rebuild. But listen, we could pay Enrique. That's not a problem, right? That's what we've done before. We paid Jose big bucks. We paid Conte big bucks. But if you're Enrique, let me throw this back at you, Dan. Sorry for a second.
Yeah, go on.
If you're Enrique, are you not looking at what's happened with Conte and Jose, two other winners, and going, oh, I don't know, my reputation there might not stand up.
Listen, I just don't even think that is a good move. I just don't, and I'll tell you why. I don't actually. Do you know what? I'm going to say it. I think you've tried everything under this ownership now, and it's all gone wrong. So I don't know where you go from here. And I just think this will just be another manager that's done something before that they're trying to wish will do
I agree.
something at Spurs. And I think that when you look at the last 10 years, where let's just say 10 years, where Spurs have actually been challenging for the top four, I can count on one hand the two managers that I think have done a good job. All the others have been dross. And, like Pochettino did a great job. Harry Redknapp did a great job. Now, doing a great job at Spurs to the fans is winning something. Neither of those managed to do it. So they got close to it, don't get me wrong. I mean, Poch got ridiculously close and scarily close for as far as I was concerned. A bit too close for what I like. But I do say this. I think when you look at what Levy's done there, which in my opinion was criminal, got rid of Poch, who was stinking the place out, to be fair, but for me, definitely was the man to take you back to where you wanted to go. You've gone with Jose Mourinho. Now, on paper, that looks great, and the CV's there. He couldn't do anything. Then you go in with Nuno, which was a stupid appointment in my opinion anyway, but at least he was a Premier League proven manager. It wasn't like you just put Ryan Mason in charge again, which again is something else. It was that's a criminal offence in itself, really. Sacking Mourinho a few days before a final and then putting him in charge. And then you bring in a win now manager. So you've had a CV manager who's won it all in Mourinho, couldn't win anything, couldn't do anything with Tottenham. But a Premier League manager who looked very good with Wolves, couldn't do anything with Tottenham. Then you go for Conte, who will win you something now. It's not normally like in 5 years' time you'll have a great team and a project, but he will normally win you something. All these managers have won something elsewhere, meaning Mourinho and Conte, and they haven't won anything at Tottenham. And it looks like Conte's not going to stay, not going to win anything at Tottenham there. So for me, it is mad. You're going to have to get a new manager in because I think Conte wants to go, and it looks like the fans probably want him out as well. It looks like the relationship's lost there, but I really don't know where you go. And I wanted to pose this. I was watching Big Six the other day, and I think they were half bantering, but it kind of half made sense. I can't talk because I did not want a process at Arsenal. I wanted to win now. We'd waited 19 years now it's been without a title. I didn't want to wait another 5-6 years to try and compete with City because by then football's completely different. But actually when you look back at it now and now where I'm at, 4 years into a project, which to be fair is looking like it's flying, we've got a bright future. So with that, what you need is a few elements. And I'm not so sure that Tottenham have got those elements under this ownership. If you wanted a 5-year plan, I'm not even sure that they would back a manager for that long like they have done with Mikel Arteta. Let's just say, for example, you have Michael Carrick, very highly rated manager, doing very, very well at Middlesbrough in the Championship, has learnt a lot at Manchester United. Do you think you would have the faith in Levy and Enrique to actually give Carrick a 5-year deal and back him to do something similar to what Arsenal have done with Arteta?
Do you know what? Right, here's the difference. For me, I think most fans, I can't speak for everyone, I'm sure there's some Spurs fans in here. I think most Spurs fans, if there was some communication from the board saying, right, this is our plan for the next 5-10 years, would jump on board with it and go, okay, great. We now know. We know what the plan is. Problem with that, Dan, Levy wants the Champions League money. So Levy does the bare minimum every year to try and scrape top four, which is basically keeping Harry Kane. And I think, again, we'll probably get it this year. I think we will. And that's the problem, is we'll get top four. And these two words have killed football for me, top four. That will paper over the cracks of a process, of a plan, of a roadmap. As I said before, I'd love it that the club turn around, they get a new director of football that's forward-thinking, a manager that's forward-thinking, an academy director who's forward-thinking, scouts that are forward-thinking, and owners that are forward-thinking, that all turn around and go, right, let's start a project. I mean, a project. When people say a new manager is a project, that's not a project for me. That's just a manager with the same old players. I'm talking about starting a proper project where you go, right, what do Tottenham Hotspur Football Club want to be for the next 5, 10, 15, for the next 25, 50 years? What do we want to be known as? When people talk about Tottenham, what do we want them to say? Right? Tottenham play good football. Yeah, Tottenham cuts in, whatever it may be. Right? Let's aim for that now, right? Let's get all of those things, those 4 components of the club I said, all on the same page. So that the youth, the academy players know they play the same style as the first team. So they know there's a path, there's a roadmap there from youth team at whatever age to the first team. That when they move into the first team, they play the same formation. So they know, oh, I slot into this position. Same way City do, Ajax do, Barcelona do. They all slot in, they know. Scouts that know, right, this is a Tottenham Hotspur player when we scout them. Yeah. Not just, oh, this player's come available. Yeah, we'll get him. But this is a Tottenham player, right? Same with the director of football has to be on the same page. Has to be on the same page with ethos. And then when managers do go, because no manager stays forever, the next manager that comes in has the same. Listen, they don't have to be identical, but they have the same ethos. And Brighton is another great example of that. You got rid of Potter, who played a certain way, and De Zerbi's come in, who plays the same way with a couple of tweaks. So he's got the players that play his style of football, and now he can add and mould it, right? But Spurs haven't got any of that, Dan. We haven't got any of that. We've got a mishmash of footballers that have been bought for Poch, for Jose, for Nuno, for Conte, who all play different styles, but all very negative styles other than Poch. And now you're seeing a mishmash of footballers where you come to Tottenham and go, what are we? What is our style? What is our ethos? And that's the biggest reason why I didn't want Conte. I don't want Conte here. I don't want to build a future under that ethos. Not that he's a build manager anyway, Dan, but that's not me personally. It's not what I want.
No, absolutely. And mate, I can't lie. I think me and you are on the same wavelength for me. I don't see where Tottenham go. I think it's bad news for you. Before we move on, I wanted to ask you these couple of questions that are in the chat. Get your questions in, people. Make sure you put a Q in so I know that is a question. I'll try and select as many as I can. Mr. Pads, big up Pads, says, I'm interested in hearing if Salah prefers David Raya or Emi Martinez. There's a new goalkeeper that Tottenham are looking at, and one of these two are mentioned. Do you think these would go to Tottenham?
I've got a show on this, R5.
Sorry, mate.
No, you're right. No, you're right. Look, I'll be honest. I think Spurs should be at a point now where we look at both those keepers and take both of them. Hugo Lloris has been a wonderful servant. He truly has. Can't play out the back for love nor money, and lots of errors are creeping into his game more than ever. And I think that we're seeing the back end of his career. So for me, I'd take either. I like Martinez. I think both these goalkeepers have got their strengths. But again, you never know until you get them in, right? You never know. But both look comfortable on the ball from what I've seen. I don't watch them like inside out, but I'd take either of them. There you go.
Yeah, I think. Listen, I think they're very good goalkeepers. David Raya has really impressed me last couple of years, particularly this season. Emi Martinez is a nutter, don't get me wrong, and I think he'll be the most hated footballer ever if he goes to Tottenham. But I wouldn't surprise me if United or Chelsea sniff around, both of these. I think both teams need a new goalkeeper as well. Chelsea, though, Kepa is awful. Mendy looks like he's not in favour now. And David De Gea, I think, is his last season, really. So I'll be surprised if they don't go for these. The other one I've got for you, Sava, as well, is this one. A Chelsea fan, Mo, says, would you swap Lukaku for Kane? Ask Sava.
Oh, come on. Make them hard. Look, Lukaku's just kind of fallen off a cliff, hasn't he, for the last 2 years? If you had asked me 3 years ago when he was at Inter Milan, I think this would have been a really tough question. Look, let's assume that we did swap Harry Kane for Lukaku. The problem is Lukaku can't do what Harry Kane can in terms of dropping deep, linking up play, being a playmaker. So what that would mean is Spurs would have to buy a playmaker to play in behind Lukaku. Lukaku's a funny one. He's scored a lot of goals in his career, but he's one of those, he looks like a drunk in an alley, is the way I describe it. One of those footballers manages to make things happen, but doesn't ever look like the ball is completely... Do you know what I mean? It never looks completely under control, Dan. But his goal record is very good. But no, I'd be disappointed if that was the Harry Kane replacement, I'll be honest.
Mate, I think it would be an absolutely dreadful piece of business, in my opinion. I think he's one of the players I would say is debatable whether he's actually overrated, in my opinion, Lukaku. I think there's some of his game which looks great. Some of it looks absolute toilet as far as I'm concerned, mate. Last one on Spurs, mate, is come from Kabir, who says, why do Spurs fans not protest if they're unhappy with the ownership? I say this about every club, and everybody says this about clubs. We've had this with Arsenal and the Kroenkes years ago. West Ham fans have got it at the moment. What's your thoughts on this about uniting the Spurs fan base, bruv?
Jesus Christ. Look, I've had this for ages and I keep being told I'm not a real Spurs fan because I don't protest. And look, I've been leaving the account since 2007. Okay. I know. I look young, but I'm not. Right. I know. Stop it. The problem we've got is look, again, I'll caveat This is my opinion, not even my channel, because I run both my channels now with Henry Wright. This is my opinion. I think that Spurs owners have come in. Daniel Levy and Enrique have come in with the goal to build a global sporting entertainment empire, right? And they've achieved that. They have achieved it. They told us they were going to do it, and they've done it. The problem you've got is this. If we were, and I'm not belittling any club, but if we were Newcastle a couple of years ago, where all the fans were united in terms of hating Mike Ashley, and the club is worth, what, 320 did it go for, or 330? I know this sounds crazy, but that's cheap in the world of football, right?
No, it is.
Not for me and you, but it's cheap in the world of football, right? I think if you're protesting against that, cool, right? Yeah, because that's doable. What we're asking people to do is we're asking people to protest against a global entertainment company now. It's not just a football club. Tottenham is not just the football. Tottenham has got their money in football, concerts, NFL, Formula One, boxing. We've got the Skywalk. We've got all of this different stuff, right? The hotels, the golf courses. They've built that. What my only question to people is, and I'm not knocking anyone that wants to protest, Dan, I'm fair play to them. What part of you, the person who asked this question, what part of you thinks that Daniel Levy and Enrique are going to see 2, 3, 4, 500 people protesting and go, oh God, maybe we should sell what we spent 22 years building to make us filthy rich, right? This is the thing. And I've said this all along, Dan. The last thing I'll say on this, Daniel Levy and Enrique, they will sell this football club when the magic number is reached. Now, the magic number, in my mind, for them is going to be something in the region of 5 billion, because it's a cash cow. And people who say Spurs aren't worth 5 billion, you're not talking about a football club anymore. That stadium alone, naming rights, will get you 500 million, right? The deals that could be struck with DAZN for boxing, right? The deals that are already in place with the NFL, right? The Skywalk, the Formula One track that's going in underneath. This club is a gold mine. It's a gold mine. So why would they sell?
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
my only
facts,
thing.
man. And that's what I mean.
Thing.
Like, you're stuck with them, aren't you, really? There's not much you can do about it. You can say you don't like them, but they're just going to, ignore it, if I'm honest with you. I mean, we did it for the European Super League, and that was the last straw, really, as far as Arsenal fans were concerned. But before that, everybody was not uniting and saying they wanted him. They liked Kroenke. It weren't the Kroenke. It was more than that. It was Arsene Wenger. It was all this arguing. Now that things have started to fit into place and actually they've become, instead of majority shareholders, they're now total ownership. We've now got what we always wanted, a title challenge. And that's why fans have zipped it and they're now happy. I want to come to this one. I'm not even going to talk about. I'll put it up, but I don't even want to talk about this because he's not going to come. Don Carlo to Spurs. I mean, wow, you would love that, wouldn't you?
It would be like when Ancelotti went to Everton. It would be a horrible culture shock, going from working with Vinicius Junior, Benzema, Luka Modric. And I'll tell you what, if he brings Luka back with him, right, even at the age of 702 or whatever he is, yeah, listen, I just don't see the point in this type of manager coming to Tottenham. We're not ready to win now, so I don't see it. But hey, Daniel Levy, if he wants someone, he ends up getting them, doesn't he?
He does. So, it seems to, mate. And it's fair enough saying a win now manager. A win now manager needs to be backed with the players to win now. And Eric Dyer and Davinson Sanchez are not win now players. So anyway,
you leave Eric Dyer alone. He's coming up for his testimonial soon.
Is he? Bloody hell. He's the one I do not like him. I tell you that now.
Shocking.
It is terrible, mate. This one I did want to touch on because apparently if Patrick Vieira loses tonight against Brighton, there is serious concerns for his future. And I think he's done a fantastic job. I'm not just saying that because I'm a gooner. What do you think of this? Do you think Vieira will end up getting a sack at Palace? Do you think he'll turn it around?
Look, I think the thing is with a club like Crystal Palace, we're talking about, this isn't a club that's expected to get Europe. Right? And this isn't a club that's expected to go down, right? So what's the benchmark for a manager like Vieira? What is it that fans are hoping for? When you look at the budget that Crystal Palace are on and the players they've got, what would their fans see as success? I don't know for me, that is a stepping stone for a manager like Vieira. Who would come in and who would do better? There would be the question I would ask. Who would go in there? Who would do better with the players they've got? And it's the same thing for me. When I watch Palace, they're actually a decent little football team. But the one thing they can never get year in, year out is a goal scorer. They've got, when you look at Elise, Zaha, you look at them and you think, yeah, they're like street footballers. It's good to watch. It's
Yeah.
skillful. There's creativity. But they've had a series of forwards like Benteke, Mateta, Edward, the Connor Wickham, these types of players who they're not gonna score 15, 16 goals and get Palace into a conversation. So I don't see what sacking him does. But listen, this is the world of football management, right? People get sacked. So
Mm.
would it surprise me? Not at all.
No, I'm kind of with you there, and I think there's two positions that they've really lacked this season. One of which is a creative midfielder because they have not replaced Conor Gallagher. Very hard to replace him, I understand that, but they haven't. And you'll bang on Edouard, Jordan Ayew, Mateta, even when
Mm-hmm.
one of the others have played in that front men role, they haven't been scoring goals. And to not have a shot on target in 3 games in a row now is now a record, and that's not a record you want to be setting. They
Yeah.
now go into Brighton, which is their I don't even know how this is a derby. I always take the mick out of Maz and D on this channel about it, but it is their derby, and it would be a game they cannot afford to lose for the fans because the fans might then start to turn, and that's what you don't want. As a manager, you've always got the fans on side. You've always got a chance of keeping your job. When you lose the fan base, mate, it's very very difficult, and the board
Mm.
don't really have much of a say. Um, I think Vieira has done a very good job, and I'll tell you why. When he walked into the job, they were favourites to go down.
Yeah.
Vieira didn't really have an amazing CV at the time of going in there. He also only had 7 football players at the club and a bunch of reserves. He's brought in some players there that I think have done really well. I think the partnership between Mark Gearhey and Matthias Anderson has been a really good one. I think he's managed to keep hold of the players that were unhappy at the time, like Tariq Mitchell, Wilfred Zaha, Eze. We've mentioned the signing of Elise. I think also Decore coming in and the signing
Mm-hmm.
of Lukonga, who's actually looked pretty good from what I've been told the last couple. Although I don't think he's good enough for Arsenal. I think for Palace he could do a good job. And he's actually seen where some of the weaknesses are. But he now needs to try to get what he can without a transfer window open, without that creative midfielder and striker he needs. He needs to get the best out of what he's got there, and that will be the big test for me. I think it's going to be a very difficult job, but I don't see Palace in a relegation battle. I just think they've got too much.
Dan, look at. I've just brought up the league table, right? So that's what I was looking at away from screen. And when you
Sure.
look at it, right, this league is chopped into two, right? If you look at Aston Villa down in 11th with 35 points, right,
Yeah.
there's then an 8-point gap to Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace are the best of the rest as it stands. Now, if I look at them, Crystal Palace are above many teams they shouldn't be, in my opinion. But they're above the likes of West Ham, they're above Leeds, they're above Leicester, they're above Everton, they're above Wolves, teams who I think should probably be above them with what's been spent. But then you look who's above Palace, and you think, should they be above anyone that's above them? You could I don't think they should be above Villa, Chelsea, Brentford. You could make the argument, Fulham, but then Brighton, Liverpool, Newcastle, Spurs, Man U, Man City, Arsenal. For me, Palace are where they should be.
I think that's
I
fair.
don't. I don't know if he gets sacked. What are we hoping, that a new manager comes in and what closes that 8-point gap?
Yeah, I think you're fair. And like, what are they
Right?
actually fighting for this season? For me, domestic trophy all the time, and make sure you don't flirt with relegation. That's what Palace should be looking at every year, in my
Sure.
opinion. They can't be demanding 6th or 7th. Not in
No.
my opinion, they can't. I can understand they probably want a top half finish and they want to be trying to get as close as they can to progress from the following season. But actually, what's a sackable offence for Palace? Probably putting some in a huge relegation zone. And at the moment, they're not in that. They might be flirting with it a bit. They might be looking at
Yeah,
it
yeah.
thinking we need to sort ourselves out. But I've got no doubt that they've got the players. You know, Zaha's back now. He'll score goals. Eze will create chances. Elise I really like, although I didn't like him the other night when he took out Gundogan. He's a good player. I do think that Crystal Palace will be absolutely fine. And I think
Yeah, I think
tonight,
so.
even if they lose against Brighton, I still think it will be harsh to sack Vieira on that. But like you said, man, it's a results business.
As I said,
And
who's coming in like that? That's the thing for me. What manager goes into Crystal Palace right now and then they win 4 or 5 on a spin? I,
I agree.
I just think sometimes better the devil you know. If Crystal Palace were rock bottom of the league right now, 5 points off it, I'd say yeah, cool. But they're not. They're 12th in the table. Where should they be?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair, man. I really do. The other thing is Mo Salah. I wanted to mention very quickly because his future is apparently in doubt at Liverpool. I don't know how you can say that when he's just signed this £400,000 thing. So I don't want to talk about that. But what I want to talk about is his form, mate, because there is definitely a decline or signs of a decline of his form. And I understand the goals are still there and he still create. He still has moments of magic, but
Yeah.
this is not the same Mo Salah this season, Sava. And I don't know if you put that down to Liverpool as a whole or if you put that down to him personally, mate.
Yeah, I'm just jumping on just to look at his stats. I mean, look, it's difficult because if we were going to look at stats alone, he's got 26 games in the Premier League with 18 goal contributions, right? Then in domestic cups, he's played 4 games and got 3 goal contributions. And then in the Champions League, he's played 7 games and got 10 goal contributions. So when you look at that, he's got over 35 goal contributions this season. Now, the problem is with a player like Mo Salah, what we're talking about here for me is a player that's set his standards so high that the moment they drop, we're there going, what's happened? He's not very good anymore. Get rid of him. I think it's a product of the team. I think sometimes we focus on individuals. I would say that the whole team, to me, doesn't look right.
Mm.
Amazing results backed up by dreadful results. You know, you look at them between scoring 7 at Man United, against Man United, conceding 5 at home to Madrid. It's like it's chalk and cheese. Then you go to Bournemouth and you lose 1-0 when you're thinking, all right, if you're serious about top 4, that's your 3 points. Look, he's an enigma. I've never thought Mo Salah is this world class beast that everyone thinks he is. For me, he's a very good player that is busy, scores goals. Another one for me sometimes looks like the ball's not under control, etc. But listen, you can't argue with the guy's numbers for the last 5-6 years at Liverpool. He's been phenomenal. Under threat, I mean, I don't know. Look, they've got a lot of forwards there. Are they looking to go in a new direction with Gakpo?
Well, PSG, Spanish reports are saying PSG are interested. I mean, it's got to be somebody like that if he's on that money. So I don't know. I'd be very surprised if he leaves Liverpool. Very surprised, Sava.
Yeah, listen, I can't see. I mean, he's just signed a new 4-year deal, was it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, what they charge him for a 30-year-old on a 4-year deal who gets you 30, 40 goals a season? There you go. Who's buying him? How much are they charging? Who can afford him?
Yeah. I'm with you, mate. I am with you.
I don't put anything. I'm not saying that he won't leave. I don't know. But there are going to be very few clubs in world football that will pay that for a 30-year-old. PSG being one of them. Would Madrid take him on their right hand side to go with Vinicius on the left? And I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I do think that even with him not being in great form, some of his stats this season still look brilliant. So, hey, he set himself a high bar there. Really
Absolutely,
has.
man. No. You're right. Absolutely, man. Last couple I'm going to throw up are one of them's from Adrian. Chelsea. What do you guys think about Enzo Fernandez? And who would you think manages Chelsea that makes you think they're title favourites? Well, they're going to have a massive summer again, aren't they? And they're probably going to decide whether they want to keep Potter or not and stick with this process. If they want title challenges, for me, I think with a win now team, which they'll probably create at some point, they need a win now manager, like we were discussing earlier. And there's rumours that Diego Simeone is probably going to be leaving Atletico Madrid at the end. Now, people hate him. I understand why they hate him. People would hate to watch his football. I understand why they would, but he wins stuff. And he also wins in Europe as well. So I can see them, if it doesn't work with Potter, going for somebody like that. But as far as Enzo Fernandez is concerned, very good footballer, mate. Unbelievable amount of money, but very, very good footballer, mate. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Enzo Fernandez is a terrific footballer. The problem Enzo Fernandez had when he joined and that he still has now is football fans are so impatient that they don't realise that no matter what the fee, he had nothing to do with it. And the fact that he's only 20 years of age. So people expect him to come over here and be man of the match every game. I just think it's harsh. Watch Chelsea, though. He's a player. He's a top midfielder. He's one of those that he's got a great engine on him, good tackle. He's always in space to receive the ball. He's one of those that when he receives the ball, he's already had a look as to where do I go next. And I love that type of footballer. with regard to the management situation, listen, I think Chelsea are in a massive transition. And yeah, it's all well and good, people laughing at them and whatever. But look, I think what Chelsea are doing, I've said this all year, and people laugh at me for this. I think Chelsea are doing a rebuild, but in about 2 windows. Right? Most clubs do a rebuild over about 3 or 4 years, right? Chelsea look like they're going, hang on, let's get this knocked out in 2 to 3 windows. Everyone they're bringing in is young, other than Koulibaly. Everyone they've brought in. You look at Fofana, you look at Cucurella, you look at Badashile, Enzo Fernandez, Mudryk, Yao Felix, and Kunku's coming. They're all young footballers, right? So they're building for the future. I don't think at the moment they are ready to win now. I think that they need this year. I think that the owners will write off top 4 and all that. Next year they've got to get top 4, and the year after I think they'll be in a position to really challenge for a title, because Nkunku coming in, that's a game changer. He's a top footballer, and they're not going to stop there, are they? They will go and buy. I think they'll go and buy an Osman type player. I think they'll go and buy an out-and-out goal scorer as well. I think they'll be just fine. You're seeing signs of it now that he's kind of settled on a team. They look brilliant against Dortmund. I can't lie. They look brilliant against Dortmund. Some of their attacking against Leicester look good. Consistency for them between now and the end of the season. But I don't see anyone coming in and going, bang, there's the title. I think there's stronger teams.
Is it fair to say, though, Sava, that there will be pressure on them to win a title after potentially spending 800 million in 3 windows?
Listen, I think it all depends on what the owner wanted when he came in, right? For me, only me, from what I'm seeing from this owner at the moment, is I think that he's acknowledged that this is a long-term plan.
Yeah.
Hence why Potter didn't get sacked during that winning 2 in 16 games or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right? The difference is here. Fans' expectations versus the person who's running the show is wildly different. And what I will say is this, Dan, right? If Potter stays and Chelsea get into the top 4 with Potter next year and go for a couple of cups, etc., fair play to the owner for not being trigger happy and pulling the trigger. But that all depends on consistency. Yeah, they've won 3 on the bounce now, but you can't now go and lose 3 on the bounce. I don't know. I don't know. Someone will tell me, hang on, who are Chelsea's next 3 games, Dan, are Chelsea's next 3 games. Everton at Stamford Bridge. You fancy them to win that. Villa at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, potentially. That's another win.
And then Liverpool at Stamford Bridge.
Oh, wow, 3 home games.
Yeah. Then they've got Wolves away. Now, you would say if they can pick up 9 from 12, they would have won 5 of 6 Premier League games. And all of a sudden, I think the noises that were Potter out, Potter can't cope will suddenly be, hang on. Funnily enough, our injured players are back. Our new players are settling because, sorry, I'm going to rant a tiny bit here, Dan. This is the thing. Football fans seem to think that players will move and settle in one game. Like the hate Mudryk is getting. He's a young guy from another country. Give him this year to settle. The price tag's not him. Give him this year to settle. See if we get the best of him next year as a league. Yeah, but straight away I'm seeing compilations made about how bad he's been.
It is Gooners, though, mate. It is Gooners doing that. It's because they're bitter because he who's Arsenal. I get that. Some people get like that, frustrated. I'm happy with Trossard personally, but
great little player. Great little player.
I do look at that, and I think you're absolutely bang on. You cannot buy 15 players and go, right, there's the title. It just don't work like that. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work like that. And I think you're right. With Reece James coming back, Ben Chilwell coming back, obviously they've got some midfielders coming back, and they're going to buy. They're not going to be in. Chelsea will buy their way back to the top because they've got an owner who's going to do that. You know, it's going to happen.
You make a good point, Dan. The thing is, I remember watching a Chelsea-Liverpool game. It might have been about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And I remember they put up the 2 11s. And I thought, is this a League Cup game? Because, you know, when both clubs looked so weak. And then they brought up a list of both clubs' injuries. And Chelsea had like 12 or 13 first-team players out injured. And I'm thinking to myself, you've got 12 or 13 out injured. You've brought in 14 new players. How's he meant to get any form of consistency, any pattern of play. But now you're seeing it. You're
Mm.
seeing, like, Enzo Fernandez looks good. Loftus-Cheek's come back in, who I think is a really good player. Yao
Mm.
Felix, very talented footballer, right? I think if they can get in a forward, plus Nkunku coming in, I think they're going to be a force again. But people are just not. Then people are not patient. There's no patience at all.
Yeah, fair play, man. Listen, last couple I'm going to do from Steve. Got a couple in from Steve. Says, how are you looking forward to the games versus Sporting and Palace? And what team would you play tomorrow night? And would you go for strong team and then rest players? I would. I would go strong tomorrow night. I'm sorry, I would. I would go strong. I don't think this is going to be a breeze and walk in the park. I want to get through this leg. And for me, this tie is all about making sure the job's done. And I think we play our strongest 11. And then you use 5 substitutes as you wish, and you take your 5 best players off. And if that is Saka and Partey and Saliba and etc., so be it. I think we'll see Gabriel Jesus at some point tomorrow night. I don't think you can really drop Trossard after that performance. I thought he was outstanding against Fulham. So I expect to see a very strong side, and I'm hoping that that will mean that we go through that tie. The last questions, 2 questions here, real quickly. Sava, we'll do these quick. Is Ødegaard Player of the Year? I mean, he got London Player of the Year the other night, didn't he? And to be honest with you, without sounding too what's the word? Gloating too much. Couldn't think of the word. Mostly Arsenal cleared up, I think. Manager, player, young player. But Ødegaard's been sensational. Do you think he could be up for Player of the Year, Sava?
I love Martin Odegaard. Absolute quality. Everything that Spurs miss, by the way, a player like Odegaard. Everything we miss. Listen, I think that it's one of those things that comes down to who wins it. I think if Arsenal win the league, I can't see past Odegaard being Player of the Year. However, I think a lot of people are going to vote for Erling Haaland just simply because of the numbers the guy is putting up.
It's crazy.
I think if Arsenal win the league, Odegaard gets it. I think if City win the league, Erling Haaland gets it. Other than that, I can't think of anyone really that I go, yeah, you stood out. I don't know if I'm overlooking somebody there, but
I mean, Saka's been unreal again, but
Saka's been good. Yeah, Saka's been good.
Man City, maybe I don't know. There's anybody other than him, if I'm honest, that's been standout. Maybe I'm overlooking someone, but Arsenal, I think, have had probably more options to go with as opposed to City just going to go Haaland because of his goals. I think we've had goals by committee. I think Saka, Martinelli's actually our top scorer. Ødegaard's been sensational. When Jesus has played, he's been one of our better players, but obviously the injuries have affected him. Thomas Partey's been outstanding. Saliba and Gabriel formed a great partnership. Zinchenko's been so important. But if you were to ask me standouts, yeah, I think Ødegaard and Saka for me are the two that I look at and think, wow, So let's see.
He's a rare breed now of that player that can just play in that pocket of space in the hole and can link midfield to attack. Always wants the ball. Oh, I see. I've just been called a slut. That's nice. I've been called worse, Dan. I know who he is as well. Yeah, look, I think he's a rare player. He's one of those rare players that makes things tick. And if you look at what James Maddison, Ødegaard, I don't think there's many of them in the league now. I don't think there is. I think that kind of number 10 position has died a little bit. But Ødegaard for me is certainly up there. Tremendous player that, again, when we're talking about the age thing, went to Real Madrid at a very young age. A very young age with a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's been at Arsenal a couple of years now and he's found his feet. So, yeah, look, top player. If he got Player of the Year, I don't think many could complain. I think it all depends on what Erling Haaland does between now and the end of the season and who wins the league.
Yeah, fair play, man. Last question of the night, which is a nice question. Favourite player that didn't play for your club? I'll let you start, Sava.
Lionel Messi. I know it's such an obvious one. An absolute joy to watch. Is the reason why I started watching football, not him, but players like that. Players that you genuinely go, God, do you see what he just did with the ball? Effortless, the best passer of a ball I think I've ever seen, the best goal scorer I've ever seen, the best creator I've ever seen, the best dribbler I've ever seen. I don't know, the best close control I've ever seen. I quite like him. If you can't tell, I just think he's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT for me. I would agree with that. Totally agree with that, to be fair. And I think he is by far the greatest of all time. So I would also go with Messi. If I'm going Premier League player that didn't play for my club, that could be interesting because there's a few for me that I respect and liked. Kevin De Bruyne is actually one of them. I think he's an unbelievable player to watch. Steven Gerrard is another, and N'Golo Kante. I just like players that literally you look at and go, wow. And those three I did. I thought Gerrard put Liverpool over the line many a time. Thought N'Golo Kante was outstanding in that role, and I've not seen anybody play that role since Makelele, and I don't think we'll see anybody play it after Kante. It'll be a while for me.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think Kevin De
agreed.
Bruyne has to go down as one of the greatest that we've seen in a long, long time, man. So I'd have to mention those. But Messi, for me, will always be the greatest of all
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And I don't
I
think
mean,
we'll see
it's
one
an
like him
obvious
ever
answer,
again.
right?
I
It's an
think so.
obvious answer, but listen, I've seen him play live a few times, and you do come away thinking, "Whoa," like just just watch the man warm up. Watch the things he does when he's warming up. And for me, do you know what makes him stand out for me above everybody else I think I've ever seen, Dan? It's three things. One is the volume of goals, but also with the volume of assists. But the overarching factor for me is he's the ultimate team player.
Mm.
He knows when to pass and when to shoot. And the problem is when I look at other top players that score that volume of goals, they often don't have that same selflessness that Lionel Messi has. And for me, I don't think we're ever going to see a Lionel Messi again. That's just me. I'm
No, I
sure.
agree.
I just think that he's one of a kind, and the longevity that he did it from 16 right the way through to now, and the fact that this was a man people were talking about was in decline when he went to PSG, and then did that in the World Cup, and
Hmm.
you go, wow, like
I think you just left the debate
wow.
dead in the water for me. Like, oh, Ronaldo, Messi. I've always sat there and
There
said,
was no debate for me, just me.
listen, there wasn't for me, but I can understand why people rated Ronaldo as highly as they do.
Yeah,
Unbelievable,
of course, he's
incredible
class.
player. And I think sometimes when you say, are you this or that, it sounds like you're slating one of them by saying they're shocking.
Yeah,
You
of
can't do
course
that
not.
with either of these players. They're just incredible.
No.
For me, it'll
But
always
that's
be
the thing in
Messi.
football now, Dan. Right? That's the thing. It's almost like I used to see all these debates with Messi fans and Ronaldo fans. It was like they couldn't just praise the one they liked without belittling the other one. And it was
Mad.
like you couldn't just say, listen, like look, I'll say it. Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the greatest goal scorers I think the world has ever. I say I think
Facts.
is one of the greatest goal scorers the world has ever seen. For me, the difference between them is the team play, yeah, and just that Lionel Messi can run a game. I think Cristiano Ronaldo goals, 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 goals. Messi can drop deep like he did in the World Cup and dictate a World Cup. That's
Yeah.
the difference for me. But hey, I wouldn't
You're
mind
right.
both of them in my team.
No, listen. I wouldn't mind either of them in the team. And I think if you think about it, if it's extra time and you need someone to bring on, I'm bringing on Ronaldo. But if you want me to ask me who the best player is, then it's Messi hands down for me
Sure,
because
sure.
he is outstanding. I've been very lucky, Sava, in the last 30 years, really, 20 to 30 years now, watching football live. I've seen incredible players that have made me go, wow. Ronaldo was one of them. R9 was another. Zidane, I've seen live. Ronaldinho, I've seen live. The list goes on, but no one's ever made me go wow like Messi. And I can't. And unfortunately, I was saying wow while he was absolutely battering the hell out of my team. So
It's funny you
it's
say that. I was at Wembley when Arsenal, when Barcelona beat us 4-2 at Wembley in the Champions League, and it wasn't Barcelona. Well, it was Barcelona who battered us, but it was one of them games where you go, he's just he's different. Like he's an
phenomenal.
alien. Like gets the ball in these situations where you go, there's no danger here at all. You know, 6 seconds later, he's wriggled through four people and he's through on goal, and you're like, how did you? What happened? Like, and what I love though, for the last 10, 15, 16 years, however long, I see people in chats going, oh, if he came to the Premier League, he'd be kicked and this and that. But you watch all the pros talk about him. You watch Rio Ferdinand talking, Michael Carrick, all these people that have played against him say, we tried kicking him. We couldn't get near him.
Mm,
So look, great player. Really glad that I've been able to see him live a few times.
mm.
But Ronaldinho again, yeah, somebody said deserves a shout out. Most skillful player I've ever seen. Ronaldinho.
Unreal, like
Yeah,
ridiculous. It's like playing
class
FIFA
act.
Street, weren't it? It was mad,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah, class act.
unreal, man. Listen. Absolute legend, bro, by the way. Thank you so much for joining me on this.
No, you're welcome.
What's the score at 4? We're going to do more of these, go. Just literal news, random football stuff, topical news, and debates. And it's always a pleasure having you on, my friend. Thank you all so much for joining us. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe on this if you can do. It's absolutely free. And I want you to do exactly the same thing over at Football Heritage TV and support Sava's channel. All you need to do is click on the title, smash a like and a subscribe on this stuff. And Sava's got loads of stuff coming on. You'll probably see me and a few of the other guys on there as well. Tomorrow is a break because I'll be obviously at the game. Tomorrow night at the Arsenal Sporting game at Emirates. But on Friday, me and Troops will be here on this channel at 2 to chat about that game and how that one went. And then I've got a race for the title show with me and Daps later on Thursday evening, Friday evening, should I say, as well for Paddy's Day. So we will see you then, people. Sava, absolute pleasure, man. Always a pleasure speaking to you, man.
Always, mate. Always, always, always. Yeah. And apologies if I'm ever too honest about Spurs, that other Spurs fans think I'm disrespecting Spurs. I'm a football fan, first and foremost. So
ignore the hate, man. Hate is always
no,
going to hate.
man. Listen, I'm so used to it now. The words are like, oh, whatever.
I got
Dan,
the same,
listen,
bro.
I loved coming on, and if you have, I'm sure everyone has, but subscribe. This guy's brilliant, and yeah, if you want to subscribe to mine, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. We'll be back soon, people. Take care. We'll see you next time. And up the Arsenal. Latest, peeps.